Hey everyone. So we're back at it again. Not going to go into a whole lot of preamble. We're doing distorted thinking. And the thing that we're trying to cover at the moment is understanding how our reasoning can be co-opted by these types of thought patterns that are problematic and often get us stuck. One of the things I've been noticing in the comments with this, by the way, is that some people who are moderates often kind of look at me side-eyed because they look at it as a form of hypocrisy, that I can in one breath say that overgeneralization towards leftists is bad, but overgeneralizing the right isn't. And I'll simply defend that. It's because I don't view them on the same continuum. I have a problem overgeneralizing the people on my side because I think often overgeneralization hurts us and stops us from looking at more nuanced situations. On the other hand, with right-leaning people, these people want either me to not do well or my destruction. I give them no quarter. Simple as that. So, hope that fills that out for you. What we're going to be talking about today is the idea of the fallacy of change. The fallacy of change is as such. You expect that other people will change to suit you if you just pressure or cajole them enough. You will need to change people because your hope for happiness seems to be dependent entirely on them. So this is an interesting one because it actually created a really fun conversation between me and Zena on this one, because we were trying to figure out how to deal with this, right? So if you look at this as it stands, if you're someone who's fairly insecure and someone who has fairly low self-esteem, and you're in a relationship with someone who's, as one of the people in chat said, a bit of a fixer-upper, the idea is that to some degree, when we engage in this way, we're actually taking a bit of a risk. Human beings, by our nature, are interpretive creatures. And we tend to project our wants, needs, and desires onto those around us. So it stands to reason that the perception of the other person's potentiality or their ability to be the person we want them to be can be, in many cases, projected, not real. You can see this in situations with domestic abuse victims where they'll say, oh, he just hit me the one time, it'll never happen again, yada, yada, because there's such a hope that things will change. Because their sense of self, their sense of security is based on this hope that things will. I think this is a really problematic thing because often I'm very slow nowadays. When I was younger, I was a fucking beast. But as I get older, one of the things I realize is that cutting people off too quickly is problematic. But there are times when you need to do that. There's a point when somebody isn't willing to change. And the problem with this is that this fallacy of change issue is complicated. I'll give you some examples. So the conversation me and Zena had, we're talking about the aggressive and the passive-aggressive ways in which this can manifest. The way fallacy of change reads is almost a passive-aggressive one. That is, by definition, you're sort of cajoling or trying to manipulate someone into being the way you want for your needs, but it's through acts of probably care, emotional manipulation, things like that. The aggressive side of this could be trying to force them or use more aggressive forms of manipulation. You see this with people who try to fix their partners or say they need work. We'll talk about this in the other video. We'll talk about the idea of what's called the heaven's reward fallacy. But the fallacy of change here is a really problematic one because in a lot of ways what it leads us to is to get false hope towards people to be different than they are. And I don't mean the way they are in the sense that there is this objective, concrete way they are. I'm a fucking Buddhist, for Christ's sakes. The fact of the matter is and an existentialist, the idea that anyone's ego is in any way like a permanent thing is nonsense. What I mean by this is that based on all social pressures and every noticeable trajectory, does it look like they're going to change? And whether we're doing this through passive-aggressive means and secretly hoping that someday all of my work and all of my effort comes to fruition, or we're trying to force them to emotionally, is really problematic. Where this gets complicated is there are sometimes where the fallacy of change isn't a fallacy. I'll give you an example. Say I'm a 16-year-old trans girl that just come out to their parents who are screaming at her. And I want my parents to call me by my she, her pronouns. I want them to call me by my name, Alice. I want them to support me in every way conceivable. And they won't. They should change. Based on everything we know and the effects on trans kids, no, it's a good argument. They should change. Where the fallacy of change can come in this circumstance, though, is that the problem is if the kid keeps trying with them, even after it becomes very clear, they won't. Did you want to speak to any of that? I know we've talked about the ideas of parents just being kind of unwilling to shift or change on stuff like this. That comes up pretty regularly.
Yeah, there's another YouTuber I've seen, and her suggestion was like 6 months. And if at that point, if the parents really aren't making any attempts, any moves, like any actual demonstrable change or effort, right, that is being seen, right? They're not trying to use your pronouns. They're not trying to use their name. They're not even like trying and failing, right? At some point, you do need to start looking at this and making, decisions about what you want for yourself. And I think that's where this stuff comes in. And are you going to stay stuck in that place? Or make other life choices.
Yeah, I think that's the problem, and we'll get to this with the Heaven's Roared fallacy, but the problem is that we also have this belief that people will change to suit us. Even if you're the type who gets involved in, say, transactional care. Give you an example of that. So, let's say you're a person who thinks that they're not worthy of care unless they give something. This could be sex, this could be this could be care, this could be lots of things. But usually all can be framed under a type of care. If you don't do this, the other person won't reciprocate. But what happens when they won't reciprocate anyway? The belief is that by engaging with them, they're going to reciprocate and give you the need that you're trying to get met. The reason why you're trying to force them to change or to behave in the way you want is because of ego. It's built on another distorted thought. It's built on the notion that you're not worthy or good enough, or the idea that you should have to work for love. This does cross over to the sunk cost fallacy. That's super true, Tiamat. But yeah, this is a problem. This is a big problem, as a matter of fact, because in a lot of ways, we get into this issue where we're pushing and pushing, and then when the other person doesn't reciprocate, it causes us to be incredibly distraught. Miss Postermaster said, although I have never heard of the term fallacy of change before, I think I definitely used to fall into this type of behavior. I don't want to overshare, but my dad is not a good person, and it took me years to realize and accept that he's not going to change. I think that's absolutely true, and I think a lot of people can share in that experience. That was so true. That was incredibly true with my family. Even when I was a young adult and I was just a snot-nosed 24-year-old with a kid that wasn't genetically mine, the moment I started getting those senses that something was off again in my family, I cut out. I cut every single one of those motherfuckers out. And the reason is that I realized that to some degree, I wasn't going to put my kid through that. I wasn't going to have them go through what I went through. There's a way in which I had to accept very quickly that they were not going to change.
Yeah, no, it's definitely... my mom falls into that. I don't think she's been, part of PFLAG for years and never made any move to support the non-binary or, trans parts of my life, and, myself and my partner and everything. And I've never seen her made a move for that, and it's been years. And this is somebody that's, been claiming to do advocacy, right?
Yeah.
I've never seen her actually be willing to, hear me out or engage in the conversation.
Yeah, it's super fucking true. Yeah, and the thing here is that if you look at the fallacy of change, let's see, wait. Tiamat, is there a specific term for the inverse belief that no matter how or how much you exert, you can't prompt a change at all? I would say that's almost like a hopelessness fallacy, that no matter how much effort I put into the thing will never happen. Though I would say that what's interesting about that idea is that to me, that just seems like, the same, like you said, the inverse or this different side of the coin, right? There's a way in which you can get to places with that. And we've talked about this before, of you being a burden, right? The idea of being the fallacy of being a burden, where no matter how much you do anything, they're never going to change, which a lot of people then lead to. So then why try? Right? So that's, I think, a thing to be aware of. The reason why I think it's important to bring this up is that it's inherently based on an egoic need to have things our way. That's not to say that we shouldn't ask for our cares to be met, and that doesn't mean those egoic needs are always bad. Someone recognizing my gender, using my pronouns, using the name that I have as my legal name, are all things that are pretty cool to do. But the idea being is that when we try to force changes on people, not because they're the good or right or the thing that's helpful to us to do, but rather just because we wanna, that gets into some really weird manipulation stuff. It's the idea that, again, giving care means you get care. And one of the issues with that transactional system is that it leads often to not happening. You've put all this effort and time in and nothing's come out of it. And again, the part of this where it comes into it is, this is because we often have, as human beings, a desire for things to be other than they are. Buddhism 101, right? The idea that where suffering arises from, in a very short and very, very simplistic version, is the notion, it's arguing with reality. Things are the way they are. And that doesn't mean we support hierarchies. That doesn't mean we support injustice. But it just means in order for you to actually have an impact on the world, you actually have to acknowledge the way the world is. You have to actually understand what you're dealing with. If all we do is try to force things to be other than they are, and we're not really taking stock of what's happening, that's an issue. For the fallacy of change to not be a fallacy, you have to recognize whether or not your partner, your family member, your friend, whomever, is actually able to. Tiamat, you asked about the prisoner's dilemma. Remind me on that one. My brain is blanking. Bugs me that stream chat says object.
I know, because you're like, who even posted that?
That's why I keep looking over here. I'll give Tiamat a minute. So does this make sense to everyone? Two prisoners participate in the same... Oh, that one. Yeah. It's the cost-benefit analysis of whether you come forward or not. Got it. Yeah. That's an interesting one. But it does have kind of a thing here, is that, again, you're banking on this. The stream is objectifying you. I mean...
Oh, us. Oh, them. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
The object.
Object, yeah. Why is it doing that? That's so weird. I'm looking. Yeah, I mean, to some degree, I feel like one of the major things here is that, like, in relationships, whatever relationships those may be, I think there's a will there has to be at least some level of acceptance of who a person is before there can be any kind of change. And so I think that's kind of where my mindset on this is that if you try your best to do this because your hopes of happiness are attached to this other person changing, you have to find a better way to be happy. Your parents may never accept that you're trans. Your friends may never call you by your preferred name. They may never do lots of things. That's why you find new friends or you find other parents. Parents does not have anything to do with blood. The original quote actually is not blood is thicker than water. It's the the blood of the covenant is stronger than the water of the womb. I might have that backwards, but that's correct. Yeah. Simply the idea that just because you happen to be related to someone doesn't mean you owe them shit. You don't choose your parents. You don't choose your ethnicity. You don't choose lots of things. From an existential perspective, you are thrown into a relationship with the world. If these people can't change and grow, you shouldn't have to waste your time on it. Find other people.
Or if you're, they might be changing and growing, but that shouldn't stop you from continuing your life, right? Finding what makes you happy, sort of thing.
Absolutely.
You don't have to stick around waiting for somebody to change and to do the personal work that you need to be in relationship with them. And unfortunately, that does kind of suck.
Yeah.
I gotta be real here. I had this moment where like I haven't seen my mom in a long time, right? And like I saw her at Costco and I felt awful afterwards because I just talking to her was just completely useless. No change, hadn't really learned anything, couldn't really like engage with me on any kind of topic, you know, not really able to tell her a whole lot about my life or anything, just in general, because I would understand. And I just had this point where like, no, I'm done with this. Like I'm done pretending or feigning some level of okayness. Like I don't want to be pretending for this anymore. Right?
No, absolutely.
Like why am I waiting?
So yeah, why don't we leave that here? If you like this video, please like, comment, and subscribe, and ring the bell. You know, the good stuff. Let me know your thoughts down below. Is this something that you do? Is this something you've seen other people do? I'd be curious what you have to say about this. I also would say if you want to donate and help the stream, help us out, we'd really appreciate it. To donate a single time, you can just use Streamlabs. Streamlabs.com/transgirltherapist/tip, or you can donate monthly as a patron on Patreon. You can start as low as $3 or as high as $50, and different ones have different tiers of things, but they all come with really cute names. And as far as the Discord, right, there-ish, the Discord, you will actually get your own color and name in the chat for it. So yeah, another little perk. So with that said, thank you so much for watching. We're going to run right into the next one. So we will see you in the next video. Thanks. Bye.